are going to receive this public money?
That'll be decided today. I don't know that they've actually made it public which chambers of commerce, local or these regional chambers, will get the money. I would say that in some cases, if the regionals don't take the money, you're still giving them to local chambers, which then can give money to the regionals, which then can give money to JobsOhio. So you've got this sort of chain effect. But we'll have to see when the Third Frontier Commission meets today. I would hope that the Third Frontier Commission, based on raising these ethical and moral issues, would hold today on making these decisions, and at least let you folks as journalists write about it and let them see what the light of day.
Are you using the term chamber conversationally? Is that none of these 6 groups that are up are actually chambers?
I am using them conversationally in terms of, you know, large groups that tend to represent some of the larger businesses. I mean, obviously Team Neo, and they all have Greater Dayton Partnership and all these different types of names. So I am using them interchangeably. There are local chambers, obviously, that belong to many of these regionals, or that are part of many of these regionals. You know, I would note today there's a headline in the Plain Dealer today that Team Neo is expanding, and the reason they use for expanding is they're going to get JobsOhio money. So clearly, they've been dangled a carrot, and they're staffing up. And clearly, the fact that they're also going to have local chambers are going to get some of this public money is going to have a major influence effect when the governor's office approaches them about issue 2 or Senate Bill 5 or any other legislative leaders or partisan leaders.
Right, when you say we request that they not participate in issue 2, I mean, what is the definition of that?
Well, here's the question. How are you, if they decide to take this public money from Third Frontiers, how can they assure us that public money is not going to be spent on this agenda? Now, I mean, 1.3 million Ohioans have said they do not want Senate Bill 5. They want a citizen veto of it. Now they're going to find out that through this backdoor system that the governor is funneling public money that could be used on the campaign against their very opinion. That is the one thing that, you know, Ohio's long been the Wild West of campaign finance rules. But this is the first time I've ever seen anyone come up with a scheme to use public money in helping support people who help you on a partisan agenda.
And I guess that was my question. Like, to do what? TV advertising, newspaper
well,
advertising?
if these folks, if either the chambers, through their own effort, endorse and spend money on advertising, if any of these institutions were to have their members or their main businesses donate money to the Issue 2 campaign in exchange for getting public money, I mean, it's basically a laundry system. It's washing the money through in exchange for getting involved in politics with no oversight, none whatsoever from an ethical standpoint on JobsOhio. I mean, you know, part of the problem here is the fox is guarding the hen house. They've exempted it from public records laws. They've exempted a lot of these pieces from public oversight. And now they're doing this end around with public money, and you're never going to know how this works. Now, I would submit to you that I think we will know. In 4 or 5 years, if this continues, this isn't going to be a civil court matter. This is a recipe for an ethical and criminal problem. And my gray hair tells me, because I've been around Ohio for a while, that these things tend to catch up with you. Just ask Mr. No. So I think it's better on behalf of public officials, if you want to do this right, at least have public oversight. Have the chambers either turn down the money from the Third Frontier or stay out of Issue 2 so that it doesn't have the appearance that they cut some kind of deal to get public money in exchange for their support. And let's have a clean system here in Ohio.
Excuse me for being naive, but I hear you make these accusations, but if I'm understanding you right, this third party, Frontier Party, does not distribute this money yet, if I'm correct.
They vote today. The governor announced that the Third Frontier money, which is money voted on as a ballot issue by Ohioans, his commission, which he appoints all the members of, meets today to start distributing the $24 million that he agreed to give to the Chambers of Commerce.
And they've identified who the money's going to?
They will be probably doing some of that today, I would imagine.
What is that money ostensibly to be used for?
Well, originally the Third Frontier money was only supposed to be used for infrastructure improvements and you know.
I meant the grants that you said you're approving.
Oh, the money today
Yeah.
will be money going to local chambers of commerce.
For what purpose?
For what purpose? It's my understanding it was to help the local chambers be involved in JobsOhio. In fact, the Youngstown Chamber of Commerce has already announced that they're using the money to increase their staff for their JobsOhio work.
But you're saying they're going to use it instead for a pro SB5 campaign?
Well, it's a washing system. If you had money and you were going to hire somebody, and then you get money from the state, say you get $1 million that you were going to use for one thing, then you can turn it around and use other parts of money in your general fund for your work on in support of issue 2. You can also lean on your board members who are all business officials to get involved in issue 2. The fact of the matter is it gives the state a lot of leverage and the governor a lot of leverage to coerce cooperation for his agenda. And that's why I think it's bad for a Republican Oregon.
Brian, does this go all the way to the top, in your opinion? I mean, under this, I mean, somebody behind closed doors would have had to have created and calculated how to give public money over here to get some help for SB5 over here.
I think it's pretty clear that the way this has been constructed, the way JobsOhio has been constructed, has been in a way to create a veiled cloak of secrecy over how the money's being spent and where the money's going. Obviously, this has been thought through. I mean, the amazing thing is the governor started by saying public money was not going to go into JobsOhio. But then 2 weeks ago, he suddenly announced this $24 million going to local chambers, and regional chambers that can wash this stuff through. So obviously, he's found a backdoor way to do that. I'm not sure that's originally how Third Frontier money was sold to voters. As I recall, it was one of the most bipartisan funds and most bipartisan ballot issues we've ever had in Ohio. ProgressOhio has been supporting the Third Frontier funds, but I can't say I would have ever supported the Third Frontier ballot issue had I known that money was going to be given in this manner with this type of lack of transparency. And I'm not sure that it bodes well for the citizens of Ohio in terms of job creation. It sounds more at this point like it's a system of patronage that whoever in the governor's office has can run. I do want to address one thing, by the way, that's come up in recent weeks. And it's funny because I've done this 5 years now, and it seems like people decide to call ProgressOhio a partisan organization when they feel like it fits. But I do want to remind you folks, when that gets fed by folks out there, nobody called me partisan when I was working with Bill Batchelder to oppose payday lending, and actually on opposite sides of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus. And nobody considered me to be very partisan when I was criticizing Governor Strickland, then Governor Strickland, when he was pushing for including and continuing the income tax cut that had been started by Bob Taft. And also, nobody ever thought that I was a partisan organization when I opposed organized labor and I was fighting on behalf of folks like Coast and far-right groups like that when it came to the casino legislation. So I would caution you to be careful when people characterize us as that. I believe we've been consistent, and on this issue, I remind most of you that we've been very consistent about transparency when it comes to economic development dollars. We've been very consistent when it comes to transparency with Third Frontier funds, and you can go back and look, but I think I've done a number of shadows columns and other things in that manner. So I know it's trite and easy for people to just dismiss me in that way, but we're an issue organization, and I think we've been very consistent.
when you say this is a recipe for ethical and criminal problems, are you saying there's anything illegal in what's being done as you've outlined it thus far?
Well, I mean, you're never going to know until somebody wronged down the line starts talking about private conversations. You know, the question would be, what kind of private conversations are happening between the governor and the Senate Bill 5 supporters and these local chambers? What kind of conversations are happening between some of the businessmen that are part of the governor's inner circle and some of these local chambers in terms of how this money is going to work? What I'm saying is, over time in Ohio, these things have a tendency to bubble up. I'm thinking back to both the honoraria scandal and I'm thinking back to the Noe scandal, where they get to a point where public funds start to be used in the wrong way and it blows into a criminal investigation.
But as of August 29th, you have no evidence of illegality.
I think it's pretty clear to me that that there is public money now being steered towards supporters of issue 2, and I think it's pretty clear and logical and easy to understand that the fact that you have a $24 million carrot to dangle to launder this stuff through is a pretty powerful tool to get people involved in ballot issues.
But Brian, right now, Third Frontier is having its open meeting in which they're discussing
Right.
the requests for proposals that were submitted for this money, and then later they'll have an open meeting vote on this money, and I would guess that there would be some sort of metrics that these people that are going to get the cash propose themselves, and I'm sure the Third Frontier has people in place that watch to make sure that they follow those things. So how is it, cloaked in secrecy if all of this stuff is happening in a public meeting right now?
I think the public meeting is pretty much to act on the public policies that have already been agreed upon. I mean, what is happening there is a bunch of appointees of the governor carrying out his will. The wash happens in that this money replaces other money that you have that can be expended in a much more flexible way. So if you have $1 million that comes in and you have $1 million that's more flexible, you can have $1 million go out. And that's part of it. The other part of it is, of course, in order to get the $1 million, you agree to do what the governor asks you to do, or what the legislative party in power asks you to do. And that's the problem here. I mean, we should not be in this situation. The situation has been created by privatizing a development department that should be a public department with public dollars, creating a C4 organization. And by the way, I'm a C4 organization here at ProgressOhio.org. You can advocate on behalf of ballot issues with it. So there are all these ethical problems with the way in which the money was won.